Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back to the live show of the Nameless live show.
We are currently reviewing all entries, and we should have a
Welcome to the
list.
No Name Show.
Yes. Look,
We're
we just
like,
got
we're like the no frills of YouTube shows.
Yeah. So today is a very different topic from what we've been discussing so far. Today we're going to talk about the basics, what you need, equipment, skills, and whatever else you need before you attempt your first wedding by yourself.
Man.
So yes, wedding photography is no joke. And today we have a special guest amongst us. And I'm going to let her introduce herself first.
Oh.
So go ahead, introduce yourself, promote yourself, whatever. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cara Neal. I own a little contrast photography in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. That's about 20 miles outside of Pittsburgh. Not Pittsburgh. Oh my goodness, Harrisburg. I grew up outside of Pittsburgh.
Go
And
Yeah.
I grew up in Western PA, went to college out here, and stayed put, and started my business officially 6 years ago. I've had an interest in photography, like every photographer says. Like since I was a little kid, I always loved a camera, taking them, not being in pictures, and yeah, I mean that's the long and short of it. I studied journalism in college, so that training really plays into my style of a documentary / photojournalism type thing. I like to capture more candids than posed shots. And it really prepared me for the fast-paced chaos of a wedding day, is learning how to cover an event as a journalist. So
Cool.
that's kind of who I am and why I do it.
It's awesome.
Cool. Evans.
All that stuff.
Hey, regular folks, you guys don't know. My name is Evans. I'm based in now I'm someone says I need to represent my city, so I'm not based in Toronto. I'm based in Brampton, Ontario.
Man.
Yeah.
Got it.
I do events, wedding photography, portraits. I also like to go out and shoot landscapes and sunsets with Paul and Brian sometimes. So shoot everything.
Absolutely.
It's very romantic when we go out together and we all hold hands.
I'm not there for that.
Hey, Brian, this
Sometimes
is my
we-
channel.
Hey, I kept it PG, bro. I kept it PG.
It's tough, man.
Don't worry. You watch those ratings.
I'm fine.
I
right,
am.
Brian, go ahead.
I am Mr. Brian James. Most notable for my urban and photography. I also do portraits, and I have done weddings in the past. I do have some weddings scheduled later on this year, and I'm hoping that they pan out for me. I don't know. I don't know what's going on yet. I think my brides and grooms are getting a little bit nervous. So we'll see. You can look me up at mrbrianjames.com if you so please.
Absolutely. My name is Paul. I'm probably the only person on this show that hasn't shot a wedding, so I'm going to probably be learning as much as our audience. And I mainly shoot, landscape, street. For those of you who don't know, I run a photo meetup group in Toronto called Get Out Shoot Toronto. And look us up, getoutshoot.com. Follow my YouTube channel for all the meetup vlogs, and it's going to be a lot of fun tonight. And finally, like I said in the pre-show, we finally have some class on this show. So thank you, Cara.
I don't know about that.
There's only so much Brian that we can take,
I feel like that was directed towards me.
There's too many dudes. There's too many dudes on this show. Someone's got to go. It's like that show alone or whatever it is.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm Salom. My photography company is Meek Photos. I'm a portrait and wedding photographer, and I think it's safe to say I used to be a portrait and wedding photographer. With the current climate, it's like I'm not too sure the direction I'm headed. But I just moved to Texas, and if you want to collab or anything, just let me know. I'm in Fort Worth, Texas. All right, so let's get this show started. The very first question is that I think most people want answers to is, what equipment, what gear do I need? So we'll go around the room, and then you guys will tell us what basic equipment you think people need, from cameras to lenses and stuff. So, all right, who wants to go first?
Don't ask.
Not me.
I can start.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Cara.
Okay. Yeah. So, kind of gear to start with. That's what you said. Sorry.
Right.
Distracted. My kids were screaming. So, yeah. So gear to start with. Honestly, I'm going to be the opposite and say you need the skills before you need the gear to start shooting a wedding. But to get started, highly recommend 2 bodies. That is something I did not have. Full frame is great, but you can't, if you're, buying 2 camera bodies, a crop sensor is totally fine. Or even now mirrorless. I mean, they're so light. And they're just, really any camera that you know how to use properly is going to be fine. A lot of times people get hung up in the kind of like what the megapixels are and, a lot of the nitty gritty, when really it comes down to how do you use the camera? Do you know how to use it? Whether it is in full manual is super important. But sometimes, using aperture priority or shutter speed priority are helpful if you're in constantly changing light. You'll miss shots if you're constantly adjusting your exposure and your f-stop. So I would say nothing super specific. Pick a brand and stick to it, though. Switching brands, I don't know if anybody else has, but it's really
Ask
so
Kevin. Ask him about the new Canons.
Yeah.
I go it.
I do so. But yeah, pick one and stick with it. And then as far as like lenses, you definitely need a good zoom. A 70 to 200 is ideal, mostly because that's just a really solid setup for, it lets you not be in the way of the wedding. The most important thing of a day is not putting yourself within the wedding.
You want to be invisible.
So having a longer lens lets you do that, but you still want to have something wide enough. So a really easy beginner setup is like a 24 to 70 and a 70 to 200, and you can probably live within that the entire day. I prefer primes to zooms. So I typically shoot like an 85-35 on each body, and then my zoom for the ceremony. A macro lens is a great addition once you kind of get moved up there. 100 millimeter macro is amazing for detail shots. Lets you really capture the diamonds and the flowers and all of that fun stuff. So I would say my main gear, the gear I would recommend, is 2 camera bodies, whatever you know how to use. Lots of memory cards too. Always lots of memory cards.
Always. And batteries.
Batteries. Yeah, batteries, memory cards, always have extras and backups. I change cards after every major thing, just so if something corrupts, I don't lose it. I don't lose
the worst.
A section.
That would be worse. Yeah.
It's happened. So that's a
nightmare.
So yeah. 2 bodies that you know how to use, a zoom lens, and either a 24 to 70 or like an 85-35 prime setup. Once you're really comfortable, and add in that macro, which you can also use for portraits. That's a pretty basic setup. And that's not even touching light and flashes and CF. So yeah.
I like it. I totally agree with knowing how to use what you have.
Meek's photo vision is a flash master.
Yeah.
He is a flash.
He can speak to the lights.
But I mean, just like Cara said, when you start off, don't start messing with flashes too early. Master your camera and know how to use it very well. And then, you can start including the flash maybe at receptions and slowly begin to use it for your portrait shots and stuff if you're comfortable with it. But if you want to go the route of natural light, learn that very well and you can be really good at it. You don't need flash most of the time. is
Yeah.
some of us get addicted to it and use it unnecessarily because we just want that look.
Yeah.
So
Hey, you have it, you must as well use it.
yeah, but
That's
it's
what she
like
said.
Yeah.
but using multiple flashes and not knowing how to properly adjust each flash at a reception can be the worst decision you ever made, and you may not get any good shots. So
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so personally, I think at the beginning, multiple flashes is unnecessary. But I strongly believe that before you even start thinking about doing wedding photography, you should at least have basic knowledge of using one on-camera flash. Especially because when you get into situations where you are doing receptions in a dimly lit environment, or even a ceremony in a place where it's a little bit dark and you don't have enough light coming in, that little on-camera flash is going to be able to allow you to get a little pop of light in there to help you get good images with low noise levels. Like I said, personally, I shoot Sonys, and they're really good for high ISOs. And so, if I want to shoot natural light at a reception, I can go as high as 3200 ISO, sometimes even 6400 ISO, and still be able to have some good images that I can use and deliver to clients. When back in the days when I was just shooting my Canon 7D, I couldn't push that high. I probably would push maybe 1600 ISO maximum, right? So that on-camera flash will fill in a little bit. You don't need too much of it, but just a little bit of extra light to pop in there. But don't start off thinking I need multiple flashes and I need like an AD600 or something in the corner blasting out the whole place, right? Then you're gonna get yourself in big trouble, because the more equipment you add, the harder it becomes to manage.
sounds good. Brian, you have anything to add to that?
Well, Cara took all the easy ones. And so I feel like here's what I'm going to come up with. I'm just kidding. Great advice, and I don't disagree with anything you said. I would say wear a comfortable pair of shoes, because you're going to be on your feet a lot. Bring some water, something that I know some people dress up like to the nines when they're photographing a wedding. I don't. I mean, I try to blend in, but yeah, comfortable clothes, and I like to bring some ibuprofen because I'm usually hurting after like hour 4.
Yep.
A good second shooter if that's required. So, what other equipment should you bring? I think you guys got everything else. Yeah. Comfortable shoes.
For me, for a basic kit, at least what you need, the 2 bodies is a must. For me, you cannot attempt to go shoot a wedding with 1 camera. You can. I've done it.
Don't do it. I've done it. Don't do it.
But don't do
I've done it too.
it. I've done it, but don't do it, because it's really high risk. A wedding day is something that someone is paying a lot of money to have that one day, even if it's just the 8 hours that you're there. That 8 hours is very important. It can never be recreated, right? So you want to go in there fully prepared. Trust me, I go with backups, my backups, right? Right now, whenever I'm at a wedding, I have 3 cameras in my bag at all times. I may not use all 3, but I have it there because you never know when something is going to give you trouble. But I have all of 3 in there, all set up, so that at any point in time, I'm not fidgeting with my gear. If one is giving me a problem, I can just drop it down, pick another one, and I'm ready to go and shoot it. Because every second, it's very important in a wedding scenario, right? You cannot be sitting there trying to figure out what ISO should I use, what shutter speed should I use. That should come naturally to you right there and then, right? So if a camera is giving me trouble, I just put it down, pick the next one, and I'm shooting. If I have a helper with me that day or a second shooter with me that day, that's is that shooter's job or that person's job to figure out what is good with that camera and try to fix it, while I concentrate on continuing to shoot the event that is happening with the other camera. So at the most, you need that 2 cameras. It does not have to be the same 2. Doesn't have to be the same level of camera or expensive cameras. let's say if I'm shooting A7 III, you can have something like an A6000 and A7 6400 or something of that sort as a backup, right? As long as they are the same brand and you can easily use the same lenses on each one of them, you should be good. I would say a must, those two, a lot of memory cards, and I would say put in there that little flash, one speed light at least.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were you going to say something, Cara?
No, I agree.
Okay. All right. So if you are thinking about getting into wedding photography, but you don't have any DSLRs or anything, your phone, you can start learning with your phone. Now,
Drop the knowledge.
this is what you have to do. You put your phone in manual mode, where you actually have control over the ISO, the shutter speed, and sometimes the aperture. Sometimes you don't get access to aperture, but there are some apps that you can install that give you access to the aperture. Now, play with these things. Make sure you understand them. It's the exposure triangle. Knowledge of the exposure triangle can help you solve almost any situation, unless, of course, it's just way too dark and, you just need some light. So start with your phone, put it in manual mode, and this is a no shame plug. I'm actually making a video on that. How to shoot with
the link.
in manual mode with your phone. It actually makes you a better photographer, because this is one thing you have on you all the time, and you can just pull it out and take a picture in a few seconds. So once you have that down, just like they said, two bodies. Don't go for very expensive stuff. I would say maybe at least get one full frame if you can, because the full frame also helps very well when it comes to low light. In low light settings, if you have a full frame camera, sometimes if you have a fast lens, a lens that shoots 1.8 or lower, you are able to capture the ambient. And for a lot of wedding planners, they prefer that to you flashing the whole place and making it look like daylight, and it doesn't show the work that they put into planning that wedding. So just have that in mind. And so I think you guys spoke about the equipment and stuff, so I think we're gonna move on to the skills. Now, let's talk about second shooting. Did you guys second shoot before you actually went to shoot your first weddings?
That's how I got into it. I think Carrie's shaking her head no, but yeah, that's how I got into it. I started second shooting, and I did it for free the first couple times. And I was like, damn.
Did you get like a free meal out of it?
Yeah. I got a free meal, and I caught the bouquet.
Oh, wow. Who'd you hire for the
were you not supposed to be photographing that?
I just wanted to get married, dude. I didn't know how it was. So that's how I started, and I think that's a great way to get started. And just like with any other photography, if you want to get into portrait photography, I don't think your first client should be paying you $200. I think practice on your friends, family, whatever. Because I think as a few of us have mentioned, master your gear first, because in a wedding you don't have time to what's going on with my camera? What's that ISO setting? Or why is this? Oh, I'm in manual mode. Oops. You don't have time for that. So I would say practice first.
Totally. And if you just practice on a friend's wedding or like a family function, there's no pressure on you to deliver results, because you're just there having fun essentially. So I would say just practice in a non-stressful environment first, and just get the feel of it, and pretend that you're shooting the event. And then you can work from there and see if you actually like doing it. I'm curious how Cara got her first kind of gigs.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm that weirdo who somehow started without ever second shooting.
Nice. Just drove right in.
Well, part of it is, so I come from a really big family, and I'm the second youngest, not counting my little brother who's like way young. So everybody in my family had been married up to that point. Whenever I was starting, as well as a lot of family friends whose weddings we had been to. So by the time I graduated college, I had been to probably 15 weddings, I think is what I counted. I really knew kind of how the day went, how the flow of a ceremony goes. a really important detail that I think a lot of people don't realize is you kind of start picking up on verbal cues from whoever the officiant is of like, oh shoot, the kiss is coming. I got to get back to like the center, or like, kind of knowing, oh, the rings are happening here. And while like the order of ceremony helps kind of lay out, that's definitely something that is important. And as you do more weddings, attend more weddings, you just really get a flow for how the day goes. And I had also, like I said, I studied journalism in college. I took all the photography classes that I could at that point. So I also had some actual schooling in how the camera works. So that's really how I mastered it. I had done some portraits, some engagements. And my best friend, who I was the matron of honor in her wedding, for the whole reception, I was like acting as a pseudo photographer there. And so my first gig was somebody who was friends with her husband, and they're like, hey, we really like these pictures you took at her wedding. We're keeping it really small. And I was like, they're like, so what would you charge? I'm like, $500.
That's a great, what do you say, right? What do you say,
Yeah. So, and like, I was very transparent with them. I'm like, listen, I've been to this many weddings. I've never shot a wedding. I know there's a difference. So I was there like 15 hours. I was there really early and like walked everything, was testing all of my different settings, made sure my camera worked and everything. And it just kind of blew up from there. I started right as I graduated college. So a lot of my friends within the next year or two were getting married. So it was a lot of word of mouth is how I got started. To this day, somehow I've never second shot. I've offered, I've said I could, and no one's taken me.
You're too good. You're too good, Cara. They don't,
No one's too good. Yeah, I'm like that.
Awesome.
I know it's like a really odd way to get into it, but definitely, the big part of it is just that I had attended a lot of weddings prior to getting started, and then. So the year I graduated college, I also got married, and that summer went to 11 weddings with my.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you shot them all?
Same time. No, that's just what I attended.
Wow.
So
how many did you shoot?
My first official year, I think I shot 5.
In the one summer?
Yeah, like from like August to the next August. It was like
so a year.
Yeah. So I started slow.
Yeah.
My biggest year was probably the year I was pregnant. I did 17 or 18. And I do still work full time as well. So it's a lot.
You like it though, right? Like it's a thrill. It's a thrill to capture that moment. Like if you capture that moment in a wedding, I think it's a huge thrill. Not only for the couple, but for you, because you got the moment.
Yeah. No, there's nothing more satisfying than like going through everything the next day and I'm like, oh, I did get that shot.
Yeah, you got the moment, right? It's like that one moment that that the couple pays you for, you got it. So
Right.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So for me, I started off second shooting. I picked up the camera a couple years ago, mainly just to photograph my girls. Right, they were born less than 30 weeks, and when they were born, doctors kept saying the chances of survival was very minimum. So while they were in the ICU, I just picked up a T5 just to kind of try to document every little day that they have to spend if something happened. So I bought that T5 and I started shooting them in the hospital, in the ICU. Every day I go there and I just take shots of them. God being so good, they survived, they made it. And then I started shooting them 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. So every month I have a photo shoot for them at home. That's what I was doing. Then I started posting a couple of those, shots and pictures that I take. Then I started going out and on YouTube and learning more about how to operate my camera, how to understand it, how to, get the most out of it. Then as I'm learning and practicing, I started posting up on Instagram and stuff, right? And then there was this photographer, really good, cool guy. He shot my wedding. So I reached out to him and I said, I'm interested in learning a lot more about photography. if you don't mind, I can come along with you sometimes. And he was so happy. He said, oh, come on. I've seen some of the stuff you're posting on Instagram and stuff, and I like them. Come along. So I went out with him for the first wedding, second wedding, just for free because I just wanted to learn, right? Maybe after 4 or 5 times I shot with him, he started to pay me because he said, oh, you're getting good, right? So we go out. It wasn't pay, but it was compensation, something good, right? So started making a little money here and there. Then one day he came out to me and he says, there's 2 weddings this date, and I want you to go do one of them. Right. So I got that a little bit of experience from him, and I learned how he was shooting and stuff like that. So I picked up a lot from him. And then when he threw me in by myself that one day, I went out there just, using the skills that I've learned from shooting with him for a couple of times. And that's how it all started.
Yeah. By yourself.
With weddings.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. When I started, I reached out to several people to second shoot, and none of them got back to me. None of them got back to me. And so somehow one day, one of my friends was having a wedding, and then I'm like, hey, do you mind if I take some pictures? I know you're gonna have a professional on that day, but I can get some extra pictures. And then this was about 2 weeks to the wedding, and then she's like, oh, I don't even have a photographer.
Wow.
So yeah, thank you. You can come shoot it. I'm like, look, no, I haven't shot a wedding before. She's like, she said she was just going to. The funny thing is, she actually started some photography herself. So she said she was going to give her camera to a friend to just come and click away on auto and then hope for the best. So she said, I probably would be much better than that person. So it's going to be me and that person. So
did they get divorced? Or they? What?
So yeah, the pictures didn't come out that well. There's only one picture from that wedding that I still have today to show.
I remember going to a friend's wedding, and they did just that. They were like, they bought disposables, and then they bought no offense, Evans, it was like a T5, right? And they were like, here, just whoever wants to just take shots with us, it's going to be great. And then I remember seeing their photo book that they probably made at Walmart, and it was so bad, and she was so unhappy. But then they got divorced like a year later. So I blame it on the
you blew all the photos.
And so this is a little plug for the 4 of us that shoot weddings. If you want your marriage to last, you're going to need to hire one of us, because we will capture the essence of the love and the commitment that you two have for one another like no one else. And so please hire one of us. And maybe soon Paul too.
See, I want to say that's one of my biggest fears, is that the pictures that I spent so much time crafting in my head and spent time editing, someone's going to look back on because they get divorced and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I hate that person. Why would I ever want that moment? And they see it and I'm like, I'm sorry. I didn't it's one of my weirdest, biggest fears. The couple splitting and not being happy looking back at the pictures.
One of my biggest fears is not delivering the photos in time, and then they get divorced. And I'm stuck with the picture.
I've seen that happen too, man. Yeah. I've seen that happen too. I don't even want to talk about it.
How would you guys suggest someone in the audience? I mean, if there's people in the audience that want to get into second shooting, how would you suggest them approaching that? Do they just look through Facebook ads or friends? What's the best way to do it?
I would say they should contact a local photographer, or if they have a friend, then do that.
Sure.
But local photographer offer to buy them lunch or coffee or something, and kind of get to know them, talk to them. You understand? Don't just send them a message like I did. I want to take a second shoot. You're not gonna get a response back.
Yeah.
So
you want to sit down and talk.
And the other thing I would suggest, networking. So if you know somebody or someone looking for somebody, because we all started somewhere, but you could always send a little portfolio too. Drop 5 photos in an email and say, hey, these are my portraits, or this is my sister's, I don't know, bar mitzvah, I don't know. And that's what I can do. I've never second shot. Hell, I'll be your third shooter if you just give me an opportunity, and you can have all you're going to take all the raws, just, because if I don't got to pay you anything and I'm still going to get all those photos, then it might be worth it. I think that's a good way to start.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I would say, like Brian said, networking, right? And those of you from Get Out and Shoot, you guys have we have a big group.
Yeah.
That you can network.
Huge. There's some
right. So
amazing wedding
it's
photographers.
just a matter of reaching out. Yeah, it's just a matter of reaching out and acting nicely. Like but the thing is this, so that brought me to a question. I see there's a question on the screen, but before we got to that, because this question ties into what I wanted to ask. So when you reach out to people that you want to land and you want a second shoot, the first thing I always say to people is that you need to be ready to invest time. Right? You need to be ready to invest your time and not expect anything back. Right? For the first couple of shoots. Because for example, if you come to me and it says you want to come second shoot with me, I may not be able to afford to pay you because I may have the wedding booked already, priced the person, and I haven't budgeted for you coming along. Right? So I may not be able to pay you because that
I'm not getting paid. And then you're not getting paid.
Yeah. So you need to be willing to at least work for free for a couple of times, right? Sure. If you're the kind that don't want to invest that time, especially initially, to get to know the business, then that's right. That's not going to work out as much. But then that also brings up that question is that when you have someone come in like that, as someone who wants to learn, there is also always that problem of who owns the images.
Exactly. I was going to ask you that. Who owns it, man?
Right. So that's a very tricky point because technically, who the original photographer who has the gig owns those images because those are his clients and he's accountable for those clients and whatever happens with their images. Right. So personally, before I take anybody on as a second shoot or to kind of mentor or to learn, I make sure you understand certain things so that in the long run we don't end up with legal issues or or this and that stuff, right?
So that's good. That's a good question.
I would still, when I second shot for free, of course they had the photographer, they had the contract, took all the photos, but we also had a contract that said I could use them for my promotional
for your portfolio. Yeah.
For my portfolio, exactly. Yeah.
And that's advice. That's fine, right? But personally, I feel like that all of that has to be set at the beginning.
That's been a contract,
right? To avoid conflicts down the line. Because sometimes, even though I may want to give you all those images for your portfolio, the client may not want to see the images on social media and stuff like that. Right. So in that scenario, exactly. So in that scenario, I can't just say go take all the images for your portfolio or for your promotional stuff. Right. That's what I'm saying. It all comes down to the beginning. And if that client, I have already negotiated with that client or not. If I'm negotiating a new contract with a new client, I can factor in the fact that I know a second studio is coming or somebody is coming along with me and make provisions for that person. Right. But when you contact me right away, and if I have something to go right away that has already been arranged, I may not be able to give you right away what you expect. And this is not just for me, but for a lot of other wedding photographers and out there. And that has become a lot of problem where people don't like to assist people to get in because they feel like it may become a problem for them down the line because of some of these legal issues and ethics and stuff.
The fun stuff.
Okay. I have a question for Cara. What is your stand on the second shooter and who owns the images and stuff like that?
Yeah, good question.
So I'm pretty lenient on it. I have everybody sign a contract who shoots with me, and it basically states something along the lines of, I own the images. I will be the one who publishes and selects the ones that were taken. Upon delivery of the gallery to the client, the second shooter can then publish and use them as needed or like as desired for their portfolio, for their social media. I just ask that, I actually usually ask them not to tag me in the photos because of our editing style is different. I don't want it to clash with me and have someone maybe see that and think that's what they're going to get. I have a very classic style of my photos. The name of my business is based on that. I have a little bit more pop of my color. But some people tend or prefer to edit like dark and moody, and I don't want that associated with my brand. I have no problem with people who do that, but I'm like, hey, they're your pictures. You took the time to be here with me today. You put the clicks on your camera. You use your pictures. Just wait until I deliver them before you publish them. Because, again, they're putting the wear on their equipment just as much as I am. So for me, I know that it's kind of it can be a counter cultural thing based on, the opposite of what I tend to hear in the industry. And another big piece of that is that I don't do this completely full time. Like I don't rely on my photography income to really support my family. So I can play with these rules a little bit. I can skirt the boundaries of what is common or accepted within the wedding world, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. And then one tip I have for people who are second shooting is that even if you go second shoot with a photographer and he or she tells you, oh yeah, go ahead, you can post your images whenever. Don't do it. Wait for them to post first before you do. Because if you start posting your images first, somehow somebody from the wedding will kind of find out, and then maybe the couple will find out, and they might end up sharing your images and not the main photographer's images, and that will create a problem, and you might not get called again. So just be wise. Don't do it. Let them post their images. Let everything die down, and then you can share your images on your photography page. And don't tag the couple or the people there.
Good point, Cara, but not tagging.
I've had a second shooter do that to me and post, and then of course the family members, like you said, found it, and then they screenshot it, and then put it through a filter, and then
they tagged you on it,
and it's so bad. And I'm like, no, that's not me. That's not me.
Like, this is what our photographer gave us. Okay, now back to this question that has been on the screen for a while. Sorry, IB shooting. We've been talking about other stuff. How many photos do you take? The last time I had my friend Ade on here, you guys remember Ade?
Yeah.
And he was, he takes 10,000 pictures per wedding.
Wild.
So his camera bodies last about.
hey, he uses a Nikon, so it's pretty durable. So it's just based on his style and the stories he wants to tell. He's hunting for the good moment. So that's that's why he takes that many pictures. I don't take that many. I take about 2,000 to 2,500. And I deliver about 300, or depending on how big the wedding is. If it's a full day wedding, I could go deliver up to about 500. But
10%.
Yeah, that's about it.
It's fair.
Yeah.
So I shoot about anywhere between 1,200 to 1,500 images. My delivery is a little different. I deliver edited pictures. I deliver up to 350.
Okay.
But depending on what agreements I come with the clients, I also give them not raw, but the JPEGs. But I go through them. So I go through the JPEGs and take a look at some that didn't make the cut, but were good enough straight out of the camera. And I add them as well. So I may end up delivering the 350 edited images and maybe an extra 200 or 300 of straight out of camera ones. So sometimes I'm always shooting with two cards in my camera. I shoot raw to my main camera, and then I also shoot the JPEGs to my backup camera. My backup card, I mean. So when I go, and most of the time I try to shoot for weddings, I try to shoot, get the image, like as good as I can in camera. And so even the extra ones that I don't edit and I deliver are also, you know, good enough to be sent out to a client.
So I usually land somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000, depending on how long the day is. I also tend, like I said, I tend to shoot a more candid style. So even my portraits, I have them just interacting the whole time. So I usually shoot probably 4 or 5 with every pose, just because I'm trying to get that exact moment. But again, because I have them interacting, and I have a lot of blackmail on people from all of the things I've deleted. Like,
Really?
like the reception pictures get out of hand too. But yeah, kind of like Salam said, is, you know, the more engaging the couple is, the more engaging the bridal party is, the more pictures I have from the day. I tend to deliver somewhere around 500. If for some reason it was like a huge, like a long day, like if I do like a 12-hour day, I tend to hit a point where I'm like, close, that reception picture is pretty good. It's just people dancing. That gets every night. I've delivered up to like 800, and I'm like, that's a lot, but I'm feeling lazy and don't want to cull through all of those reception pictures of people dancing. But that's honestly, that's a real photographer moment there. Culling is my least favorite thing. It's really boring. So yeah, I usually deliver around 500. And part of that too is that sometimes I don't feel that I can always pick what they think will be their best picture. So sometimes, especially with the portraits, I'll deliver like 3 that are super duper similar, and then I let them choose from those 3 of, you know, she might not like the way that her smile looks in the first one, and he may have a lazy eye in the second one, but I like their expressions in the third one. And they like, I just, as someone who's very particular about the way I look in pictures, I try not to pick, you know, I think she's going to like this one. So part of why I tend to deliver a little bit more. And that may also just be the fact that I hate culling as well.
You can have everything. Call yourself.
There's
Tell me what to edit.
there's a question on the screen. I be shooting. It depends on your camera. I know for my camera, when I go in the highest burst rate, the quality goes down by a lot. I think it drops by about 40%. So the quality
That's
of the
why you
image.
gotta switch to Sony.
hey, I don't need to be shooting at 11 frames per second for my portraits, okay? I'm not switching. Nikon for life. Yeah.
Bro, you wanted to shoot me, man. I move fast, so you got to be ready. I hope you get popping out 9.
And did we answer this question already? There's a question on the screen right now. Did we answer that already? When you attend weddings, take your camera along and ask politely whether they will allow you to step forward to shoot. Don't be the Uncle Bob. Don't get in the way of the photographer.
Oh man, that's what I was gonna say. Like,
oh yeah, let's talk about Uncle Bob's. Any experiences?
In the middle of shooting, and they're tapping you on the shoulder, and they're like, "Hey, I'm a photographer too." I'm like, "Great. Well, I got paid to be here, so that'd be great if you could just step aside." And like Cara was saying with your zoom, right? So you got your 7200 and you're back maybe like 185 millimeters. And you're getting like they're about to put the ring on, and don't like 4 people jump in front of you with their camera phone, and you're just like FML. I'm allowed to say that, right? Don't be that
the iPad. I hate the iPad.
The iPad.
Oh my God.
Heads.
But you know, if your family member lets you or your friend lets you, I don't care if you take some shots. Just stay out of the photographer's way. That you're gonna find plenty of stuff that you could shoot. Just please stay out of their way.
Yep.
Otherwise, they're gonna Nancy Kerrigan you in the parking lot. I don't know if you know.
Yep. I just wanted to comment on the best shooting thing because I think we kind of brushed it. So personally, I don't do best shooting at weddings, except the bouquet tours.
I think that's what I usually botch.
the bouquet toss is something that sometimes if you're not careful, you easily miss it, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have the right settings and the right amount of lights, because that's one of the times where, if possible, as much as possible, try to see if you can shoot without flash or anything of that sort, because you want to be in a high best mode. So as a throw, you can get multiple shots of that bouquet till you get the right shot. If your camera is like a Nikon, like Mix, then you're limited. But with the Sony, where I can shoot 20 frames per second, I don't really, I can just put my finger down, and just go that kind of thing.
Yeah, but just
I don't
to
lose
Meeks,
any quality,
just to defend Meeks, I mean his camera does sound really cute when you click the shutter.
I thought you were gonna say something good for once.
It does. It has a really nice, shutter click. It does.
And if you are I had a second shooter who was following the bouquet and not the people catching it. So most of the pictures, the camera was tilted up, and
in the air.
She got pictures of the bouquet in the air, and then when it got to the people, all you could see was blurry hands and stuff. So just focus on the people who are catching it and just stay right there and click away.
So a fun trick that I do so I don't botch my bouquets anymore is I usually will focus on the bride throwing and have my second focus on the people. So that way it's just you're set ahead of time. And I also will tend to have the bride do like a fake toss. So I'll count to 3 and I'm like, fake them out. You pretend to throw it. So that way, if something happens, there's definitely a good shot of her going to throw it. I do the same thing with the groom because the garter toss, if they do one, I don't think I've ever seen a successful one on the first try. They tend to try to slingshot it and it goes 2 feet. I had one get stuck on a ceiling fan.
The other thing I do sometimes is that I try to use a wide angle lens for that. So I'll use something like a 24 millimeter, or even sometimes I use a 17 to 16 to 35 or something like that. So you have a wider field of view. That way you're able to catch some of the bouquet in the air as well as the people, and you get a better feel that way too. Especially if there's 2 of you shooting, one can take the tights and you can take a wide angle.
That's what I'll tend to do that on the kiss as well during the ceremony. Is I'll usually get the tight and then have my second stand right behind me or right beside me and shoot it wide so they get both angles of it.
So just to clear the air, if I'm not shooting at 11 frames per second and I'm shooting at something lower, it's full quality. Okay. All right. Now let's keep it moving.
Yeah. All I was saying is that I can shoot at 20 frames per second and still have full quality.
My goodness, that's good. Hey, we're not. It's not a sporting event here. Okay.
One of us will not be on the show next week.
I don't know if you heard the Sony A7 R5 actually can shoot 2 different focal lengths at once. So you can shoot 35 millimeter and 100 millimeter at the same time, get the close and the wide shot at 500 frames per second. So it's pretty good.
It's so fast. You're in the
Please stop. People will believe that. Stop saying it.
Your channel could explode now. People be like, did you hear the rumors about the A7
R5
focal lengths?
That's funny.
So yes. So if you are just watching, it's all about some of us, not some of us. Evans, tell us the story. Why did you switch from Canon to Sony?
Oh, that was a very simple decision. So I started off with Canon. I shot like I said, my first camera was the T5. Then when I started shooting weddings, I upgraded and I went to the A7 Mark II. I mean, what do you call that one? The 7D Mark II. But I still kept my T5 as a backup second camera. And it was great. But it got to the point where I wanted to move into full frame, right? And Canon had become very stubborn. They were not innovating. They were not giving a lot. They were crippling the cameras all the time. At that same time, I was also getting into video. So I needed something that can shoot both video and do well in photos as well.
R5.
So that's when I decided to switch to the A7R3. And it serves my purpose. See, right now my A7 III, even though it's almost 3 years old, it still has some magic on the R5. You know, it will still kick the i5.
Cara, is there a reason you started with Canon and stuck to Canon?
Yeah, sorry, don't mean to be rude. I'm getting text from my sister-in-law. She's like,
Sorry.
Same thing.
Yeah, sorry. I don't like to be on my phone in front of people, so I apologize. But yeah, so my first camera given to me was actually a Canon. It was a Canon Rebel XS. So it was a real old Rebel. And I just kind of stuck with it because it's what was given to me. I got comfortable with the button layout, with the function. From there, I upgraded to a 50D and then a 6D. And now I do a Mark IV, a Mark III, and an RP. So that was kind of my progression of cameras there. Really, it was just that my first camera given to me was a Canon. I did have a Sony a6000 for a little bit. It did not serve me the way I wanted it to. I did not love it. But I was also comparing it to my 6D at the time, and it wasn't doing what I wanted. I also have shot Nikons a good bit because that's what I had at one of my past jobs and at my school paper before I had my own camera. So yeah, that was basically how I stuck with Canon. And so every once in a while I regret not getting the R versus the RP, but now I saw that R5 and I'm like, ooh, I wish I had more money to spend.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing video anymore, so I really have no need to. But it's just.
And you might need to buy a big fan when you get the R5.
Yeah, you might want to get some ice packs. You know, after a few shots, you just put it in the ice pack.
I'm just hating because I don't have money.
Yeah, no, they actually instead of the battery grip, now they do have an ice pack that plugs right into the battery. Yeah, it's good.
Like one of those like fans that old people use when they're playing bingo or something.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Like portable fans.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that a couple of years ago, we were all making some fun of Sony for the same issue, right?
Right. And look at them now. All right,
Yeah.
so the hard question: camera or lenses? If you were going to spend money and you were limited and you couldn't get the best camera or the best lens, what would you advise?
Lens is 100% for me.
100% lenses.
Okay, 100% lenses. All right.
Yeah.
So, full frame, crop.
If you can afford a full frame, do it right away.
Yeah. The full frame is so much better for low light. I know we've talked about that a little bit already. The crop has its own benefits. It's not as good in low light, but if you're spending the money on lenses, you can get a faster lens that lets in more light, and it gives you that crop factor. So you're, 50 millimeter. I forget what the factors are anymore, but it gives you a little bit of a faster. Yeah. You're not shooting at 50. You're shooting a little bit further. I'm also very bad at math, so you don't want me doing that here. So yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to both, but once I switched to a full frame, I'm like, oh, I don't think I could ever go back. Just the low light sensors and settings alone. That's the selling point, especially at weddings. If you don't have like some weddings, they don't let you use flash during a ceremony. I've had that several times, and my word, is it annoying, but that's the rule, no flash. I did it once in a church with red carpet. I spent a lot of time color correcting that because on everything was red tinted, no matter, and I adjusted my white balance constantly, everything, it was a mess. But having the higher sensor or the full frame sensor, I was able to shoot at a higher ISO, and I didn't have nearly as much grain. And even in reception, sometimes, it's good to keep your ISO higher whenever, even if you're using a flash, because that way if it fails, you don't totally miss the shot. That's something I've kind of learned through a lot of trial and error. You can at least save the shot by throwing it in black and white if your flash fails, or if it's just in its recycle mode. You guys who use flash way more than I do can probably explain that much better and how to prevent that from happening. And but yeah, definitely whatever you can afford it, but a full frame is definitely the choice that I would recommend. I felt like when I moved to a full frame is whenever I really stepped up my wedding photography. Felt like I was a professional. My camera felt more like an adult. I don't know.
So go ahead.
Oh, so that's really true. And for me personally, the reason why I would always recommend a full frame over the crop, it's not just because I've seen people try to shoot weddings with even a micro four thirds, right? And that's fine as long as you have fast enough lenses that can let in the light. But when you compare images, especially between the full frame and the crops and the APS-Cs, you can tell that the full frame has a certain unique look to it, right? That you're never going to be able to get, because even though you are able to use full frame lenses on an APS-C body, when you do that, there's a lot of factors that goes into that. The lens is good, right? And it will improve the quality of that image. But there's nothing like putting a full frame on a full frame, right? If you have a 50 millimeter or let's say even a 24 millimeter on a crop factor lens, you're no longer shooting the 24 millimeter. You're shooting at a 24 millimeter times whatever the crop factor is. So it's either 1.6 for Canon or 1.5 for Sony. One of those. Nothing really wrong if that's all you can have, a full an APS-C. But like I said, if you're going to invest right from the beginning. You don't want to invest in APS-C lenses, and then when you want to upgrade to a full frame, you cannot migrate those lenses over, right? So if you can afford a full frame, go for it right away.
But it's better to shoot with two APS-Cs than
one
full frame.
I still shoot my weddings with a full frame and a crop. My crops will be my backup, but it also shoots quicker as well, so I'll use it for those bouquet shots and things like that. And
I don't remember ever having two full frames at a time. I've always shot one full frame. That's my main camera. The rest of my cameras have always been APS-C. Even right now, I shoot two APS-Cs and one full frame, right? But the full frame is my go-to. The APS-C is just a backup, right?
Okay. All right. So looks like time is running out. I still have quite a few questions here, but looks like we might not get to all of them today. We were supposed to be sharing embarrassing wedding moments, like when I knocked the cake over and stuff like that. But we'll get to that a different day.
That's a good one.
I didn't actually do it. Somebody saved me, but I have a video of that. Wedding planners, don't put the cake in the middle of the dance floor. It's beautiful for the pictures. That's about it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
I got a quick question for Cara. I know people in the audience might want to get into wedding photography, and sometimes it gets a bad rap, too much stress, clients, not enough money, all that stuff. But personally for you, Cara, why would you tell someone to get into wedding photography? Like, what's the big draw to it?
Oh my gosh, the best part of wedding photography is hands down knowing that you are capturing the most important day in most people's lives.
Yeah.
It's the most exciting feeling. You get to tell their story. It's super cheesy, and I think it's on my website too. So part of my tagline is that, let me tell your story. My hashtag, I used that for a while in my branding, and meeting with people and talking through that concept of you're inviting me into your wedding day. I am a guest, even though you're paying me to be there. You've invited me into these intimate moments to create these intimate moments so that you look back on, maybe whenever you have that first big fight, you pull out your album and you're like, you know what, I do love you, and that's why. Like, I remember what you said to me right there. I remember the vows that we made, and like I'm sitting here talking about it, and I have chills again. For me, you get to tell someone's story. You get to be part of, the beginning of something magical and great and exciting. And, even if you weren't there at the beginning of the relationship, marriage is a really big deal. It's not something that should be taken lightly. It does get you a lot of good tax breaks. It does do that. Personally, I think that marriage is a really important day. It's an important thing. Weddings are a blast. And they're long days. They're exhausting days, especially when you're 9 months pregnant. That's when the comfy shoes are really important for the win. And but yeah, do it if you love telling people stories, if you enjoy hearing about, how people fell in love and why they fell in love and why they want to be together for the rest of their lives. That's why you should get into wedding photography. Not for the money. Do not do it for the money. You can make bank. You absolutely can. But I do not say do it for the money.
Yeah.
Do it for the right reasons. Do it for the people. Do it for the clients.
Do it because you want to do it.
Story.
Yeah, do it because you want to do it.
Yeah.
It's a privilege, right? It's a privilege.
Yeah. Yeah. Recognizing the fact that you are a guest at the wedding as well as a vendor, I think was like a big switch in my head for me. Is like, you're obviously not a guest, but you have to recognize that they're trusting you with a lot of responsibility to capture those moments of the ceremony, of the details, the stuff that they've slaved over for who knows how long. They lost sleep over. And I will say, having gone through my own wedding planning that I did on my own, I do empathize a lot with the brides, especially people who were getting married younger and right out of school. There's a lot of stress in it. So
it's great.
Yeah, just care about people more than you care about the money. That's how I think you should do it.
Yeah. I mean, you do make a lot of money, but wedding photography does get a lot of bad press out there. So just want to put that out there for people that may want to get into it, or people that have started, that it's about telling stories. So I think it's huge.
Yeah, I mean, feel free. Anybody who has questions, shoot me a message. My Instagram is @a-little-contrast-photography, all one big long word. I'm on Facebook, A Little Contrast Photography. My website is littlecontrastphotography.com.
It's all going to be in the description, Meeks.
Yeah, so I'm gonna add them all. We have your Instagram right now. I'm gonna add everything else.
Yeah.
So go follow.
Whatever. Ask me more questions. I'm more than willing to answer. I may not get back to you super fast. Like I said, I do work full time. I have a toddler, and I don't have any weddings right now. But who knows if
no one does.
No one does.
I'm going to one this weekend, but as a guest. So
awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Cara. We really, really appreciate it.
Babble on too much. So.
No, you should come on some other time with us. I think we need more class on this show, as I said.
I think you brought us the most views on my channel.
Yeah, we're just
Brian's channel gets the most views. Yeah. All right. So final message, Evans, Brian.
What I would say is just like Cara said, enjoy it. Go into it at the beginning with the idea of having fun, right? As a wedding photographer, you come with a lot. And personally, even up to now, I enjoy weddings a lot because most of the time it's not about the money, because I work full time. Weddings are on the weekends. So the fun of being there that weekend, chilling with that family, capturing those moments, supersedes the need to make the income. When it becomes more of the money, and you're just taking it because of the money and not putting in an effort to get to know the couple and interact with them as much, it becomes a hustle, and that's where most people feel like wedding photography, it's too much of a stress, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not enjoying what you're doing.
You're having
You
fun.
gotta enjoy it. You gotta have fun with it. So when you're starting off, just start off and try to enjoy what you do as you learn, right? If that enjoyment piece is missing, then you're always gonna have this stressed out about a wedding day because it's not for you.
You'll just quit, man. You'll just quit.
Well,
Take that website and go home.
I'll go. It just so we're completely transparent and we're honest with everyone that's watching the show. I don't enjoy shooting weddings. I do enjoy storytelling and I love photography. So for that reason, I do shoot weddings. However, it is very stressful, and I have had a couple situations where clients weren't happy because there was a shot missing or something like that. So I just, as a piece of advice, along with the great advice that Evans and Cara just gave us. Also remember that it is a business, and in the end, you are putting your neck on the line. And so I would just say, make sure you protect yourself, make sure you get a good contract, have another photographer who's done this for a while, look at it. God forbid you fall backwards into a fountain and your camera gets wet and you only have a single card slot and your card gets ruined and you missed the last 400 shots that you took. There's a good chance they're going to try to sue you. But if you've protected yourself, unfortunately, accidents do happen. So I would just caution you before you jump right in. That's why I think it's so important maybe to start as a second shooter, or at least seek the advice of an experienced photographer and say, hey, I'm doing this for the first time. What do I need to know? And hopefully you got a lot of that from the show. But I just wanted to be transparent about that. And, there are other things that I prefer to shoot. So
Protect yourself.
Good contract and insurance plan is probably the most important thing of everything that you need to start is a solid contract and have insurance.
Yep, and I'll say that at the beginning, try to have a short list with you, right? Have a list with you of the most important shots that you gotta capture on the wedding day, at least for your first few weddings. But after a while, you get used to it and you know what to expect. But if you're beginning, have that list with you on, I'm going to this wedding. These are the important shots that I need to have.
Okay.
Yep.
Be prepared.
Paul, you have any final words, Paul?
I'm gonna go shoot a wedding this weekend. So
Oh,
it's my wedding. No, it's great. Like I said, I think we need to get Cara on again. We should get more people on this show. I think people want to learn about all kinds of stuff. Because like I said at the start, I never shot a wedding, so I learned so much in just 1 hour. So I think there's a lot of value to bringing people on besides us just babbling along. So hopefully we can do more of this. And I think I'm on next week, so maybe I'll try to get someone on the show. Let me see who I can turn around.
all right.
Yep.
So I think you guys touched on most of the stuff. So there's just a few stuff here that I'm just going to just touch up real quick. Is for the shot list, don't just bring a shot list for yourself. Ask before the wedding day. Make sure you and the couple have agreed on a shot list. That is if they want a shot list. If they haven't given you a shot list, they cannot come and ask you for, where is the picture of my mother-in-law with this? It was not in the shot list.
With Eden, yeah.
Right. So, and your contract should actually protect you from that. Your contract should have a clause in there saying that you do your best to capture every single moment. But yeah. So
protect yourself.
So there's that. And then one other tip for beginners is that I would say beginners should go with the mirrorless route. This is why. With the DSLR, what you see through your viewfinder is not the final image. So this is way back when I started. I would be shooting something inside and then somebody will run out to do something and I'll step outside. And then for the next 2 shots, I wasn't paying attention to my ISO, so it's completely blown out. The image is completely white. And then I thought I got those shots because I could see them in the viewfinder. And then I come to realize that I didn't get those shots. Here's the thing. A mirrorless camera, what you see is what you get. So if the shot is going to be blown out, it will be blown out right in the EVF. It's like you are pretty much cheating. And it just makes it easy and makes it such that you don't make as many mistakes as you would if you were just a beginner learning with a DSLR. But once you become good at it, you wouldn't make those mistakes, but you can avoid that. And finally, when it's time to eat at the reception,
Yeah.
make sure you go eat first. Like, just jump the line, like go talk to the people, whoever is making the food and stuff like that. You can even talk to them in advance so that you eat first and then you are ready. Because what happens is that if you don't eat first and then you wait till you get your food after people have gotten their food,
Yeah.
the program is such that they can start at any time once people are done eating.
Yeah.
So you have to be ready to start shooting once people are done eating. So that's one little thing, to eat first, be ready to shoot, and you will not miss any moment. So that's about it. It's like, just like Brian said, just like Cara said, it's a little stressful. But if you approach it from the angles they already said, like you are a guest, you are capturing this very important moment, you have this big thing on your shoulders. If you approach it from that angle, you will enjoy it. And then I think we need to talk about this some other time. So
yeah, we gotta. I think
Yeah.
this is like episode 2 for us, man. So
yeah,
much
we should.
information here. I think.
Thank you very much for making the time, Cara.
No problem.
And
I really appreciate it.
and thank you all
Cara.
voice on the show.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for
Pleasure.
Cara, final thoughts?
Go shoot whatever.
I love it. It's so simple.
Okay, so just before we leave, so this is my wife. She says that's why she loves the Z6, because she second shoots for me, and that mirrorless thing just helps, makes life very easy for her when she's indoors. Everything you adjust, you're seeing the final image right there and then. So yeah,
It's awesome.
all right, bye guys.
All right. Bye.
Peace. Have a great night. See you next Wednesday
Yes, on Paul's
on my channel. It's gonna be insane. I'm gonna get someone.
And everyone's channel is down in the description below. So do well to subscribe and check out everything there.
Sony.
All right. Thank you.